Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. In today's episode, Toan and Diem finally get to enjoy some peaceful days at their new farm. No more sirens chasing them, no more fear closing in. Just the late afternoon sun, the yard, and a simple real-life moment, Toan teaching Diem how to ride a bike. Diem wobbles, her heart pounding. But then she manages to steady herself and completes her first few laps like she's learning how to stand strong again after everything they've been through. But right at that moment, the wooden gate suddenly lets out a loud creak. The elderly woman, the one who once saved Toan all those years ago, unexpectedly shows up. She stands there quietly, watching Diem ride, then smiles with real happiness. Toan and Diem rush over to greet her and invite her inside. And when all three of them sit down at the simple wooden table, the woman starts checking in on their health, asking about every little detail. Almost like she didn't come here just to visit. So why did she appear today of all days? And what is she hiding in that cloth bag she always carries with her? Make sure you watch until the end to see what happens next. And don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next episodes. In front of the small house on their new farm, the late afternoon poured golden sunlight over the dirt road, still marked with tire tracks. A light breeze moved through the bougainvillea trellis, carrying the fresh scent of new grass and damp soil from last night's rain. Toan wheeled an old bicycle out into the yard, adjusted the seat, then squeezed the brakes once, like he needed to be sure everything was solid. Diem stood beside him, gripping the edge of her shirt with both hands, her eyes bright but nervous like a kid stepping out of a safe place for the first time. She put her foot on the pedal, but the bike wobbled the moment it started to roll. Diem flinched, her heart pounding. Toan immediately stepped in close behind her, one hand steadying the seat, the other supporting her lower back, making sure she didn't fall even an inch. In that moment, Diem froze, because the feeling of being protected was so familiar. Just like all the times she thought she was about to lose everything. The bike rolled again. The tires crunched over small gravel with a steady, scratchy sound. Diem was trembling, but this time she didn't let go. She started to find her balance, eyes fixed straight ahead, lips pressed tight with determination. Toan kept running behind her, breathing hard dust clinging to his shirt, but his eyes lit up like he was seeing something more precious than any victory. Then suddenly, Toan slowed down. His hand slipped off the seat, and Diem didn't even notice. The bike kept moving forward, steadier with every second. Diem realized she was riding on her own, and her chest felt like it might burst. She laughed, but her throat tightened at the same time. And right when she was about to turn back and call out to Toan, she heard him behind her. Just his footsteps slowing and a quiet stretch of peace. Right as Diem was still wobbling on the bike, the tires crunching over the small gravel. Toan ran behind her, keeping pace and steadying her rhythm. The late afternoon breeze slipped through the bougainvillea, and the sunlight spilled across the yard like warm honey. Diem started to balance on her own. Her shoulders loosened, both hands gripping the handlebars, her eyes locked straight ahead. And then, she really did it. No falling, no swerving. Just a short stretch of road, but enough to make her heart race like she'd just beaten herself. And that's when the wooden gate out front let out a soft creak. A small figure stood outside, holding that familiar cloth bag tight against her chest. The elderly woman looked into the yard, She didn't rush in, she just stood there quietly watching Diem pedal. In her wrinkled eyes was something unexpectedly gentle, like she was finally seeing what she'd been hoping for them for a long time. Peace. Diem stopped. The bike turned around and froze. Toan froze too, almost like he was afraid it was just a memory playing tricks on him. But no. She was really there. And when her gaze met theirs, she gave them a kind, tender smile, the smile of someone who had seen them at their lowest and was now finally seeing them stand steady again. Toan hurried to the gate. Diem walked the bike behind him, wiping sweat off her forehead as she went. They stood in front of the woman without speaking for a few seconds. Just that quiet warmth spreading in their chests. Then Toan stepped aside. Diem gently took the woman's hand and guided her in, inviting her into the house. Inside the new house, warm yellow light spilled over the simple wooden tables set by the window. The late afternoon breeze slipped through the thin curtain, carrying the scent of dry straw and the aroma of hot tea that had just been poured. Toan pulled out a chair for the elderly woman, moving slowly, like he didn't want to tire her out. Diem set a plate of still warm country pastries on the table, then sat across from her, hands laced together, happy but a little awkward, like the house only felt truly complete now that she was here. The woman looked around, her eyes pausing on the small details, the neatly stacked dish rack, the flower pot on the porch, the raincoat hanging perfectly in place. She gave a quiet nod. Her smile was gentle, but it couldn't hide the tiredness in the corners of her eyes. Toan noticed immediately. He leaned in slightly, his expression a mix of concern and guilt, because without her, he probably wouldn't even be sitting here. The air in the room settled into something calm and familiar, warm, like a shared family meal. Diem poured more tea carefully, setting the cup closest to the woman's hand before softly checking in on her. She watched every breath, every small movement of the woman's hands on the tabletop. Sometimes they trembled just a little. Sometimes they tightened around the cloth bag like she was holding on to something important. Toan asked more questions too. Not out of politeness, but like he was trying to make up for all the months he never got to say thank you. The woman talked about her recent days, how when the weather turned cold, her body ached more, how she sometimes had a cough that wouldn't go away, but she still tried to do light work so she wouldn't sit around and get sick. She said it with a smile, but Toan's heart sank as he listened. He glanced at Diem, and it was like they understood the same thing at once. Her health wasn't what it used to be. Diem quickly reminded her to eat on time, not stay up late, and to bundle up when the wind picked up. She spoke slowly and clearly, the way you would with someone you truly care about. Toan stayed quieter, but his eyes said everything each time the woman coughed softly. He frowned without thinking. Each time she rubbed her chest, he slid the warm cup a little closer. The elderly woman looked at the two of them, and her smile returned this time, not just kind, but relieved. She could see they truly had a home now. They knew how to take care of each other, and they knew how to care for someone else. Toan got up first, almost as if the warmth in the room needed something solid to anchor it. Something simple, something normal. "I'll make dinner," he said, voice calm, like it was the most natural thing in the world. Diem stood too, a little too quickly, then smiled like she caught herself. "I'll help." The elderly woman waved a hand gently. No. You two sit. I can just watch. It's been a long time since I've sat in a house like this." But Diem shook her head. "You're our guest. Please rest. We want to do this." Toan didn't argue. He just moved toward the small kitchen corner. Really just a counter, a gas stove, and a few shelves. Then opened the cabinet like he'd been practicing this routine for days. Rice in one jar, dried fish in another. A bundle of morning glory on the counter, still damp from being rinsed. The sound of cooking started to fill the house. The click of the lighter, the soft rush of flame, the gentle knock of a knife against a wooden board. Outside, the late sun faded into a deeper orange, and the shadows on the floor stretched longer. Diem washed the greens again, even though they were already clean, mostly because her hands needed something to do. She kept glancing back at the elderly woman, at the way she sat so straight, but held her shoulders as if they were heavy at the cloth bag resting in her lap, like it was part of her body. "Are you comfortable?" Diem asked. The woman smiled. "Very. More than you think." Toan didn't look up as he sliced garlic, but his voice softened. "You shouldn't have walked all the way here." "I didn't," the woman said quickly, then paused. "Not the whole way. Someone dropped me off near the road." Toan's hand slowed. "Who?" The woman's smile stayed, but her eyes shifted for a split second, just enough to feel like a door closing. "A young man. He had a motorbike. I don't know his name." Diem felt a small chill, even with the warm air. "Did he say why he helped you?" "He said someone told him to," the woman replied. "That's all." Toan and Diem exchanged a look, quiet and fast. Out here, favors didn't happen for no reason. Toan let out a slow breath and turned the heat down. "We'll talk after dinner." The woman nodded as if she expected that. When the rice finished steaming, Toan scooped it into a bowl and set it on the table. He stirred a simple soup light broth with greens and a few slices of ginger, then brought out a plate of pan-fried fish crispy at the edges. It wasn't fancy, but it smelled like home. Like the kind of food that made you stop thinking for a second and just feel safe. Diem added a small dish of fish sauce with chili and lime, then placed chopsticks and spoons, neatly lining them up like she wanted everything to be perfect. "All right," Toan said, pulling out the chair beside the elderly woman. "Eat while it's hot." The woman stared at the table for a moment, as if she couldn't quite believe it. Then she lowered herself into the chair, carefully hands resting on her knees. The cloth bag stayed on her lap. Diem noticed that and spoke gently. "You can put your bag down, Grandma. You don't have to hold it." The woman's fingers tightened around the fabric. "I know, it's just habit." Toan didn't push. He simply sat across from her, Diem beside him, and for a moment, none of them moved. Then Toan bowed his head slightly. Not formal, not dramatic, just sincere. "Thank you for coming." The woman's lips trembled into a small smile. "Thank you for being alive." They started eating. At first it was quiet. The kind of quiet that wasn't awkward, just full. The clink of chopsticks, the soft sound of soup being sipped, the occasional breath of satisfaction when something tasted good. Diem took small bites, watching the elderly woman more than her food. The woman ate slowly, careful like each swallow took effort. When she coughed once lightly, Toan immediately reached for the tea and pushed it closer. "You're coughing again," he said. "It's nothing," the woman replied, but her voice sounded thinner than before. Toan's jaw tightened. "It's not nothing." Diem leaned forward, her tone gentle but firm. "Have you seen a doctor?" The woman let out a short laugh, not bitter, just tired. Doctors cost money. We'll take you, Toan said immediately. The woman's eyes lifted. You two have barely settled here. We'll take you. He repeated like that was the end of it. Diem nodded. Tomorrow if you want. The woman looked down at her bowl. For a second, she seemed like she might refuse out of pride. Then she said quietly, let me finish what I came to do first. Toan didn't eat for a moment. His chopsticks hovered over the rice, then lowered slowly. So, you didn't come just to visit. The woman's face softened, almost apologetic. I did want to see you. I wanted to see if you were truly safe. She looked at Diem. And I wanted to see her too. Diem's throat tightened, caught off guard by the way the woman said it, like she'd been waiting a long time to meet her. I'm glad you're here, Diem said, voice quiet. We talk about you. The woman nodded once. I'm sure you do. Toan finally asked the question that had been sitting in the room since the gate creaked open. Why today, he said. Why now? The woman didn't answer right away. She took a sip of tea hands, trembling slightly around the cup. Then she set it down carefully. Because she said things are moving again. Toan's eyes sharpened. What things? The woman leaned back a little, like she needed the chair to hold her up. The kind of things that don't let people live peacefully for long. The kind of things that follow even when you change your name, your place, your life. Diem's fingers tightened around her chopsticks. Someone is looking for us. The woman's gaze stayed steady. Not for you, girl. For him. Toan didn't blink. Who? The woman's answer came out softer than expected. The people who never stopped wondering what happened that night. The air changed. Not in a loud way. Just like the room got smaller. Diem swallowed, forcing herself to breathe normally. That night, when you saved him, the woman nodded. Toan's voice dropped. I thought it was over. The woman gave him a look that felt both kind and hard. You can't bury a fire and pretend it won't burn underground. Toan stared at the table, then at his hands. His knuckles were pale, like he was gripping something invisible. Diem reached under the table and found his hand holding it. He didn't pull away. The woman watched that small gesture, and again that relieved smile appeared, like she was grateful they had each other. Then she finally shifted the cloth bag off her lap. The movement was small, but it pulled both of their eyes immediately. The bag hit the table with a soft thud. Toan sat straighter. What is that? The woman didn't open it right away. Instead, she rested her hand on it, palm flat, like she was steadying herself too. This bag, she said, has been with me since the day I pulled you out of the rain. Toan's chest rose slowly. You kept it all this time. I did, she said. Because I promised myself I wouldn't lose it. Not after everything it took to get it. Diem's voice barely came out. What's inside? The woman's eyes lifted to meet hers. Something that belongs to him. And something that could change what you think you know. Toan shook his head once slow. I don't want trouble. The woman's expression softened again. Trouble doesn't ask what you want. She untied the string carefully, fingers working, as if they were older than they looked. The knot came loose. For a second, no one breathed. Then she reached inside and pulled out a folded piece of cloth, dark worn, stitched in one corner, like someone had repaired it again and again. She set it on the table first. Toan stared at it, eyes narrowing, like he recognized it, but didn't want to. The woman placed something else beside it, a small metal object wrapped in paper. Then finally, a thin envelope yellowed around the edges, sealed shut. The kind of envelope people used for documents, not letters. Toan's throat moved. "Where did you get those?" The woman's answer was quiet. "From the place you don't remember." Diem looked from the envelope to Toan's face. His expression had changed. His eyes fixed, his mouth slightly open, like his body had been pulled back in time. "I remember," he whispered, but it sounded like he didn't want to. The woman tapped the envelope lightly with one finger. "You remember pieces, not the whole." Toan's voice got sharper. "If this is about money, it's not," she cut in, but not harshly. "It's about truth." Diem leaned forward, her heart hammering. "What truth?" The woman didn't answer directly. She picked up the small wrapped metal object and unrolled the paper slowly. It was a key, not just any key. An old key, heavy with a number scratched into the side. Toan's breathing turned shallow. "That key," the woman said, "was in your pocket when I found you. You were unconscious, soaked through, and you kept your hand clenched so tight around it that your nails cut into your skin." Toan stared at the key like it was a snake. Diem felt her skin prickle. "A key to what?" The woman looked at her. "To a locked place. A place someone didn't want opened." Toan swallowed hard. "I never saw that key again, because I kept it," she said. "I was afraid if I gave it back, you'd go running toward danger before you were ready." Diem glanced at Toan. "You didn't know." He shook his head, eyes still on the key. "No." The woman slid the envelope closer to him. "This was tucked inside your shirt. It was wet, but I dried it. I never opened it." Toan's lips parted slightly. "Why not?" "Because it wasn't mine," she said simply. "And because I was waiting for the day you could open it without breaking." Toan's hand hovered over the envelope, then stopped. His fingers trembled. Diem covered his hand with hers. "We can do it together," she whispered. Toan closed his eyes for a second, like he was trying to find the part of himself that could handle what was coming. Then he opened them and looked at the elderly woman. "Why now?" he asked again. But this time his voice held something else, fear. The woman's gaze didn't flinch. "Because someone came to my house 2 nights ago." The room went still. Toan's face hardened. "Who?" "I didn't see his face clearly," she said. "But he knew your name. The one you used back then. He asked questions. He stood outside my door like he owned the night." Diem's stomach dropped. "What did he want?" The woman's hand tightened on the cloth on the table. "He wanted what's in front of you." Toan's eyes flashed. "Did you tell him?" The woman shook her head. "No, but I heard enough to know. They're not done." The house suddenly didn't feel as warm. The yellow light still glowed, the tea still steamed, but something cold sat under it all. Toan looked at the envelope again. Then he looked at Diem. His voice was low. "If we open this," he said, "we can't close it back." Diem swallowed, then nodded slowly. "I'd rather know than keep living with a shadow." Toan's jaw tightened. He took one long breath. Then his fingers slid under the seal. The paper tore with a soft sound that felt way too loud. And just as he started to pull out what was inside, the wooden gate outside creaked again. Not softly this time. Sharper, heavier, like someone didn't care if they were heard.